everybody. It is your professor, Rocco, your boy, coming at you again with another Age of Sigmar video. In this 101 class, we're going to be doing another Rocco Responds, answering some Kruleboyz questions. There were some viewer questions left in one of our videos a few weeks ago. We finally gotten deep enough in the queue to get to them. And remember, don't forget to leave a like if you like the videos. Comment more questions for us to answer here, and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps, and we're getting to a push of almost 1,000 subscribers. We're almost at 800 specifically, but like, we got the view time. We're getting there. That push to 1,000 is real, and we need your help to get there. And don't forget to share the video too if you like it, in Kruleboyz circles. I'm sure they exist. So the question in particular in today's class is dirty tricks. What are they? What do you do? How do you use them? What's a good one to choose? So let's just define it right now. A dirty trick here in this instance is once per game ability that you pick one the start of the first turn, or before the start of the first turn, after you get your command point. So you know who's going first because it's after the players have received their command points, so you know who's going first, you know who's going second, but before anything actually happens. And these are generally debuffs or traps. They mess up your opponent's army in how it functions one way or another. And picking the right one can really feel like it keeps you alive long enough to do damage, or, it might mess up your opponent's game plan. They're helpful. This is the first one here, Noisy Racket. It's honestly my favorite. It makes the whole enemy army -1 to wound your army for the first battle round. I'm a huge fan of this. There is a substantial lack in Age of Sigmar of +1 to wound, and enough units wound on a 3, moving it from a 3 to a 4, going from 66% of the time the wound roll is going to go through to 50-50 shots is a huge debuff. And there's enough stuff that wounds on a 4 that you're wounding on 5s, and you just it really hurts Alpha Strike armies that want to get into combat that have no way of getting all their units to be +1 to wound. It's just useful, And even then, if my opponent's army is a bunch of +1 to wound, I'd rather have them back to wounding on 3s instead of 2s to absorb that initial Alpha Strike damage burst in that first round. A smart opponent would see this and maybe just, you chose it, they might hang back. And you know what? You don't care, because that was one battle round where they didn't fight you, and it did its job. And it's melee. It shouldn't be melee specific either, so this should be really nice on everything here. Noisy Racket, it's great. Lethal Surprise. This is where things get a little dicey for me, because again, it's roll 3 dice for each 4-up. You get to do a thing because it's strong. On average, you should get at least 1.5, because you're 50% of the time. Averages get weird, but you're probably getting 2. Should at least get 1. Where, if, as you should, play with a bunch of terrain features on the board, this is really nice. 2 booby trapping on our 2-up. Do D6 mortal wounds. And this is part of the reason why I'm a fan of using terrain features that have a footprint. You could have units inside for cover or have defensible terrain, where it makes the game more dynamic. And then this Lethal Surprise actually is useful. And you can tell it's here because that's what they meant for us to use all these new terrain rules we got. It's not just fighting a canyon or an open field. There's rivers, bridges, towns, buildings we could be in. And it could just be like, hey, here's a hill. Cool, they booby trapped the hill. You moved onto it to try to get cover. Boom. They roll the 2 up. Oh, 6 mortal wounds. There goes your foot hero. And it makes your opponent think twice about everything. It's a little bit of a shame that it's just you move within an inch of it. But if it's a big enough terrain feature or an important enough place to have a fight, you can lay these traps down pretty well. And again, you need to roll the 4-ups. So it's not high on my list, but it's good in certain situations here. Disappear and act. Again, roll 3 dice. For each 4-up, you pick one different enemy unit on the battlefield that has not been reinforced. Now that's, like if they come in blocks of 10 and they upped it to a 20, you can't pick the unit. The thing here is for, you roll dice for each unit you picked. If the roll is greater than the unit's wound characteristic, your opponent must remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up as a reserve unit. At the end of your opponent's first movement phase, they set that unit up again on the battlefield, wholly within their terrain or their territory, and more than 9 from enemy units. Now, the usual thing for 908, but they got to come in from their territory. And some of the battle plans are that really narrow. You're set up from like 11 inches from the back of the board. And what this can do, and again, it also, to continue this, if you can't use it if there's a no reserves rule for certain battle plans, where you just can't put stuff in reserve. But some people see this and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna go and put this, unit of fulminators into the dirt. You can't because it's 6 wounds now. Or like, I'm gonna go and put this big scary unit of whatever away. This is a great dirty trick if you want to remove screens. Like if I'm a Stormcast player, heck, if I'm a Deepkin player, you know what? I've got Aether Wings. In either army, I've got Aether Wings. Right? They're my screen. If a Deepkin, it's to stop you from shooting all my more important stuff because you have to shoot the nearest thing in my army. And if you remove the Aether Wings, you remove that screen of thralls in front of me. You remove the Free Guild Guard in front of my Stormcast because I went for a Stormkeep army where they're 1 wound models. You just got to roll the 2 up. You got 3 chances to remove that one screen to make me all of a sudden be extremely vulnerable to all my stuff. This is a really good tactic for that if you know you're going first. This could open up holes if you're more melee focused. If you've got the Mire Brute Trogoth, if you've got the spell that lets you move in the hero phase with a monster, and you're trying to throw up like the Killer Vulture, to open a hole. This is great. This is fantastic. And even if you don't have the spell to move in the hero phase and then move again, if you have like a friendly Mega Gargant that you're going to be sending through, removing the screen that they would not normally be able to get over on a charge, it's just huge. And yes, it revolves around 2 different dice rolls, but we're not looking to remove like 2-3 wound models. We're looking for that 1 wound cheap screen. It's like someone got a unit of I don't know, shooters, right? You're playing the mirror match here against someone that allied in some shooters from the Gloomspike Gits, and you get one of those 4-ups. You roll the 2 up because they're 1 wound models after that, and they're gone. Then all of a sudden, there's everything right there for you to just rip them a new one. And, this is useful. And again, people think of this and like, oh, wow, my opponent has to then put them up on their territory. It can mess up shooting armies by then forcing them to have to set up again out of reach. Some of these territories and different battle plans come to the middle. So it's not going to be as exciting as you think it is, which is why I like using it for screens. Covered in mud. Again, roll 3 dice. We really like this mechanic. We for each 4-up, pick a friendly unit that is not a hero or monster, and while that unit is in cover, it is not visible to enemy units. If you know you're going to be facing a shooting meta, like KO, cities, even some Deepkin builds have really good shooting. Daughters of Cain and the Bow Snakes, Iron Drakes coming through. This is a very nice way to debuff your opponent in the fact that, again, assuming you're playing with some terrain features that you can actually get into cover with, this is a good one. It protects that one or two unit, because again, I don't plan on rolling 3 4-ups ever in this game. If I roll one, I'm happy, because I should roll one, maybe two. That could be a unit of like a big 20 block of gut rippers. It could be some of my own crossbows. It gives me options for what I want to hide. And again, sometimes the terrain you set up for your game, this won't work. It won't. And sometimes you actually did put fences down and have little walls that your models hide behind and take advantage of the new cover rules. And then in this case, this thing's freaking fantastic. It's a maybe. It's a maybe. It depends on the table. And here's an example of a Kruleboyz list that I got here. I'm going the War Clan Grin and Blades because I want to say like what I would pair this with, because part of this for me is I'm already prepping my dirty tricks in my list building, and I'm trying to take advantage of the Grinning Blades and the fact that, because everyone's like big yellers, big yellers, big yellers, like that's great, big yellers. You get extra 3 inches of range on the man skewers, and that's nice. And you reroll hits of 1 in the first battle round. A lot of this is first battle round dependent. You got to shoot your shot in that first battle round or you're screwed. Where you have to be the aggressor. And I don't necessarily like that too much. So I've built a well-rounded, in my humble opinion, Kruleboyz list here, going Grin and Blades, which is, they have the rule Out of the Mists, which is during the first battle round, friendly Grin and Blades units are not visible to enemy models that are more than 12 inches away from them. So what does this functionally mean here? This means that unless you are a Lumineth Realm Lord Sentinel that doesn't need line of sight and to be able to see their target to shoot them, everyone has to get danger close to shoot you that first battle round. This stops the heavy shooting. This stops bow snakes. This stops a lot of city stuff. This helps a lot. It does. Because this gives you the flexibility in your deployment because you can pre-measure in Age of Sigmar to be like, okay, cool, I know where I can screen out with these big blocks of Hobgrat Slitters. I've got 3 units of Gut Rippers. So what I like doing is my front line will be like a block of Hobgrats on my left, a unit of 10 Gut Rippers on my right. No, sorry, in my middle. A unit of, I guess another unit of Gut Rippers on my right flank-ish. I've got the third unit to be like floating around whether I want to like match up on my opponent's strong side or have like a bit of a weak side. And then I've got the unit of Hobgrats, the second unit of Hobgrats, kind of chilling in my backline. And I've got the Bolt Boys going like middle left and middle right, flanking the Snatcher boss on Floodraker Beast. And I'm trying to get as many of my units in this setup, and also on either side of the Bolt Boys, I've got a Swamp Crawler Shaman with a Pot Grot. And then I've got a beast skewer bow. Generally, I try to put it a little central, but it's really wherever. Like, and if it could just toe into the Sledge Raker Beast Aura. But I'm just trying to, like, match up on where the monsters could be deployed that I'm trying to gun down. Um, and with this list, I am also super sneaky, which is I pick one of my units um, to basically have a pre-game. I can move it wherever I want. And I use the extra unit of Hobgrot Slittas generally to annoy my opponent for like where, like, if they have a rule like Iron Jaws where they have to wog to charge and they've got mighty destroyers. I'm going to make it so that the Hobgrots are like 12 inches out. They can't do the hero phase move because they have to try to charge the Hobgrots. They're within 12. But at 12 is really freaking hard to do, and it just wastes my opponent's resources having to deal with a pretty beefy block of 20 Hobgrots. Also, Hobgrot shooting being 4s and 3s, and you can run and shoot with them, isn't bad. And being a 20-person unit, and they're okay in combat. It's like 4s to hit, 5s to wound, but 6s to hit, explode into 2 hits. It's just volume with them. And you have Rend on the grenade with the shooting attack. I like them. I think people are sleeping on them. And I have for my Triumph, not that I expect to get it, but Indomitable, which would be just auto pass a Battle Shock. So I could like auto pass one and then spend a command point on another unit if they don't flat out overcommit to killing my Hobgrots. And again, my important units here are reinforced with the Manskewer Bolt Boys and the Hobgrots so that they can't be in a mirror match sent off. And if someone's going after my Gut Rippas, you know what? Because they're probably running Big Yellers, they're not going to be able to shoot me the first battle round. This list lets me win the mirror match. It also deals with a bunch of shooting. And Gut Rippas are 2 wounds apiece. They're decent. They're a little overpriced for what they do, but again, it's you get 20 wounds and you have the 6s to 6s to hit do the mortal wounds. And they've got the scare shields, which are nice. But they're there to hold objectives and just hold the line. I'm not trying to get into fighting. My hammer units in this list are the 2 units of Bolt Boys and the Killbow, the Killbow. And the Snatcher boss on Sledge Raker Beast can fight, but I gave the Smellian trait to be -1 to be hit in melee, just to try to make it last longer. And also I have Mork's Eye Pebble there to give a 5-up ward in a shooting phase, where, again, Battle Round 1, they should not be able to shoot me. Battle Round 2, I've got a 5-up ward save against shooting for units that are near the general with the artifact. And realistically, like a 5-up ward save, I'm saving, a third of the wounds that come through. I'm hopefully have enough of my armor saves going okay where, I'm going to still have enough after they're shooting where it's going to feel like they've wasted a turn and a half, maybe 2 shooting phases doing nothing with their primarily shooting army. Which is nice. And you know what? If they did have the ability that first battle round to get within 12 of me to shoot me, that means they're close enough for my Bolt Boys on my turn to blast them away. Because I would have deployed so that, again, they're not going to be able to reach my important units. That's why I've got the units of Gut Rippas ready to die. I've got the Hobgrots. They have to commit to kill. And most importantly, I've got the 2 Swamp Crawler Shamans hugging the Bolt Boys so that 5s to hit do the mortal wounds. And, if I get a 6, I get the extra mortal wound. It doesn't work on the 5 up. It's only on 6s. But that also means maybe one of my Shamans gives the Gut Rippas one of the buffs. And then I can rely on 1 unit of Bolt Boys and then 1 unit of, with the 5 ups, and the other unit I'm fishing for 6s still to do 3 mortal wounds. This Kruleboyz to me as a faction feel like fair, like a fair elven army. They magic is there, but if you're gonna do all these mortal wounds from your different abilities, I don't know that you should also be the magic and combat army too. Like, they do combat okay, they do shooting really well, and I like that. It's not overpowering with magic, and I've got 2 good spells: the Black Pit and Nasty Hex. Nasty Hex to remove ward saves, if I remember right, and the Black Pit is good into high armor save units. Where that's a lot of the meta is like you're looking at long strikes, which get, honestly, you're gonna have, because they get the once per game hero face shooting. You know what? With this, all of a sudden you're sitting on that for the first round because you're not gonna get in range. Because no one in their right mind should ever use their teleport ability to get within 12 inches of your screens in this army. And also with the super sneaky, you move one of those Hobgrot Slitters to just aggress onto an objective. You force your opponent to fight you somewhere where they don't have the numbers. They have the damage maybe, but they don't have the numbers to contest objectives, and you just make them have to make these hard decisions. And this army build buys you time with, again, maybe the neg 1 to wound trait if they're going to be really aggressive, if they're like Iron Jaws coming at you. Maybe you do try to be invisible to protect some of your shooting if it is a Lumineth Realm Lord army where you're farther back. Well, no, that's still just going to be rough, huh? Okay, LRL still are a pain. They're not. I'm kidding. LRL are a very manageable army. Their win rate's feeling it. But, the neg 1 to wound, if they're not going to be getting all those mortal wounds, eventually other attacks are going to come through. And if it's just like a sixth of the time they get a mortal wound on you, and you've got, oh my goodness, that's right, Mork's Eye Pebble. That's why that's there. They can roll a 6 up. You can roll a 5 up. You've got better odds. And this is just buying enough time so that your Bolt Boys can do the work. And you've got the support for them to do that. And again, Hobgrots, that's 40 shots on 4s and 3s. That's, everyone's freaking out about the the Free Guild crossbows on 4s and 3s. That's great. But these guys can also run and shoot, where you auto 6 one of their runs, and then all of a sudden that's a 9-inch range, and they move 5. You're getting far. You're getting, like, I think 18, 19 inches. I don't know if they have more pluses to move or if they have other abilities off the top of my head, but it's a decent shooting profile that, again, is just annoying enough to make someone spend a command point and burn it on an all-out defense when they really should be saving it for the Bolt Boys, And that's the game of chicken you force people to play with this. Do they all-out defense the monster for the Kruleboyz shot? Do you try to split up their focus? Like, okay, I'm going to go and grenade these dudes. They're normally a 3-up. They're going to be a 4-up. Do you want to risk your really elite infantry? And then I'm just going to go, once you do that, I'm just going to pick another unit because my Bolt Boys have longer range to go and shoot other things. The other thing with this list is it can go first or second. If you're going first, set some traps. Do something crazy. If like there's a hill they're set up on, you can't do it in their deployment. So, like, if there's like a hill in the middle, or there's trees or a forest or something you're going to be fighting over, set a trap or try. We've got all these different cool once per game abilities that all have their own place in this. This kind of a list gives you options. And I'm not saying this list will win GTs outright. Oh my God, it's great. No. This is the skeleton of a list that you go and build off of later. Maybe you take all this talk that I've had and you do put it in big yellows. Maybe you take this into like a, you wouldn't use the dirty tricks in a big wad, but you take this kind of idea of this list, you put it in a big wad, and you add in some other stuff, you change out the artifact, and you're like, okay, cool, I can make this work here with this combo. Use this as a thought experiment, class. This is follow me here, camera guy. This is the kind of list that it's well rounded. It still pumps out damage. It's a 2-drop. And one of the things I think of with this is sometimes I might want the Hobgrot, like the second unit of Hobgrots. Maybe I want them in 210s, and you know what? It still fits in the 2-drop. I have got extra room in the other battle regiment that only has 3 units right now. Maybe we drop the second Hobgrot Slitas for an extra kill bow, and maybe you find like a cheap little endless spell. You have play with this kind of a thing. And this is a list that once you get practice with it and you understand, like, okay, how do I play this mind game of I've got all these debuffs, I've got all these things I could do, I've got all these little tricks and extra rules and mortal wounds to dish out. How do I apply it? And my grand strategy, I didn't put it on the list because I didn't think of one, but I might do I wouldn't do hold the line because that would just I've got 3 units of battle line. I would look at dominating presence with this would be a good one because you figure you've got the Bolt Boys and the Killbow for killing, and you're primarily a ranged army with the Hobgrots as well, and you're just trying to delay long enough for your shooting to work and to give you the most opportunity to roll those 5s and 6 ups. So I like dominating presence for this. Predator's Domain could be interesting, of like holding on to the different terrain pieces, but I'd go dominating presence. Yeah. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're done. Thank you for coming to class today. I'm going to go back up to the list. Thank you for coming to class today. If you have any more questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below the video. And as I like to say at the end of all of our videos here in all of our classes, class dismissed. Bye.